Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Perceptive Podcast here on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. I am Josh Beiser, and for today's episode, we're going to be talking about the organization Women-Led Games, an organization that is trying to raise the voice and awareness for more developers and more games developed by women. And joining me is the director of it, Charmaine Duff. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am doing alright. It is a very warm and algae filled day here in the middle of
Oh, fun.
March.
Sounds great. Yeah,
but
I'm in Texas, so
oh,
it's actually it's humid today, and the other day it was
mm.
like freezing cold. It's just really, really weird right now.
Oh yes. But it's great to have you on. Thanks again for expressing interest in coming on. And for any developers watching this or anyone else in the industry, if you're interested in coming on to talk about your games or just game dev in general, again, feel to reach out or feel free to reach out. I'm always looking for more guests. But for people watching or listening to us, the Women-Led Games Showcase happened in the beginning of March. By the time this podcast goes up, I should have my showcase video looking at my favorite games from the event. So, to get things started with, since it's your first time on, could you talk a little bit about what your background is and what is Women-Led Games?
Yeah, so I got started in indie games about 3 years ago when my friend approached me and asked me if I would like to be her community and social media manager. Because at the time I was doing the same sort of thing for a small business that helped other businesses uh, translate their marketing and things like that from brick and mortar to online. And this was like right at the height of COVID. Everybody was kind of locked down and everything. So that's what I was focusing on. And then she reached out. My friend reached out and she was like, "Hey, I made this game for my capstone class for my degree, and people are really interested in it. And I'm thinking of making it like an actual thing. And I know you want to be in game development, but you just don't know how to get started in it. Like, do you want to do like social media, community management, or something like that for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." She's like, "Great," because I hate talking to people. And I was like, "Okay, cool." Which I feel like is like most developers, not necessarily always hating talking to people, but it's not their favorite thing. They'd rather be in their cave developing, which is fair. Um, and yeah, so I started on that. That game is called Critter Crops. It's releasing very, very soon. And since I came on, I dabbled in a lot of things. So when you're indie, you kind of wear all the hats. So I did social media, marketing, content creation, influencer management, marketing. So I just got to have my hands in a whole bunch of different things. Created two Kickstarters within a year of each other that both successfully funded really, really well. Assisted in finding them a publisher, all that fun stuff. And it's just been a really wild ride. And then, last year, I've been supporting my friend this whole time, and it kind of dawned on me like how few studios are founded by women, and how few studios there are that are like people of color and things like that. And then, the thing happened last year with it was just rough in general for women. I feel like last year with the Wings Steam Sale event got canceled. And
Mm.
so that was the kind of the catalyst for me starting Women-Led Games, because I was in a very small group, because there aren't many of us, of women that are in development. And they were just really, really bummed, because it was a great event back in 2022, the first event they had. It went really well. Gave a lot of visibility to those women, and to have it canceled that year, like, just kind of really sucked. So I was like, okay, that sucks. They had to cancel it, but like, let's do something then at least.
Mhm.
And so I made Women-Led Games. I got as many of those games that I could up on a website, and I used my skills that I learned from working on Critter Crops, and reached out to a bunch of influencers, and reached out to my other community management friends, like, "Hey, can you help me boost this?" Things like that. And so, it was a very, very small thing, but it was very welcomed. It was something that, even though it wasn't like this huge, impactful event, it was still something, and it was seen.
Mhm.
And then, what I really wanted to do at the time, which I could not because I had like 3 weeks to prepare something, and it was just me and one other person at the time. And I was like, we're totally not doing this, but I wanted to do like an actual showcase, which is what I did this year. And so, since last year until now, I had a whole year to plan, and it ended up growing into like a whole 3-day event over the weekend, starting on Women's Day. And we got Devolver Digital on board helping sponsor it. And the Game Awards retweeted it, IGN picked it up and broadcast it on there. Like, it just went from 0 to like 100, like really, really fast. And yeah, now we're headed to GDC. We're going to be talking to networking with a bunch of people and seeing kind of where it goes from there. But yeah, our whole goal is just to bring more visibility to those developers, because as we all know, funding is hard right now, but it's extremely hard right now, but it's always historically been hard for women in general. Like, women-owned studios are much less invested in than men-led studios. So yeah, that's our whole goal.
And yeah, it's definitely been a very rough time, as I'm sure if you've been on social media in like the last few weeks of March, it has not been a unfortunately a very good time.
We hit a great time to put up our showcase with all the sweet baby stuff going on.
Oh, yes.
Very, very interesting. Everybody's calling it Gamergate 2.0, which is funny because I was calling last year Gamergate 2.0 just because like there was just a lot of silent, not like inclusion, like non-inclusion, like with the PC Gamer magazine, celebrating 30 years and not mentioning one woman that worked for them in the 30 years in their magazine. I'm like, that's a long time to not, like, I'm pretty sure there's at least one woman that worked for you in PC Gamer in the span of 30 years that you could have mentioned. Things like that, or what was it? I think it was Summer Game Fest last year where Jeff said he couldn't find a woman to come up and help him host it. He had one person in mind and she couldn't make it, so he didn't. Things like that were happening all around last year, and I feel like it's just kind of more of that's just carrying over. And yeah, it is starting to feel like Gamergate 2.0, which is interesting. It's very intense climate right now, I feel like.
Yeah, and as someone, I'm old enough to still remember when Gamergate 1.0 was around. And the old, I guess, again, history is just a circle, or I think like Alan Wake, it's not a spiral, it is a loop of when Assassin's Creed developers said that women are hard to animate, or women are too hard to animate. I still remember that line.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I didn't know about that. That's pretty hilarious, actually. Women are hard to animate.
Yeah, it's definitely not unfortunately, a good time for everyone, especially for women and women-owned studios. And I've had a chance to speak to a few developers or a few game studios who have been ran by women in the past, and I think it's very difficult to kind of stand out in today's market, as you were saying, and it has become, unfortunately, with the whole rise of, I don't even know what we call like the rageosphere on YouTube and Twitch these days, in terms of people saying, "Oh, this game is horrible because it was a female who directed." And again, I have to say female because that's how they use that line. Right. And it is a very tough time. And again, like as someone who's been covering games, playing games for now over 30 years, I've had a chance to talk to developers like, I always forget her name, the adventure game designer. I think she did Phantasmagoria. I think it was Roberta Williams. Someone in the comments will correct me on that one. But there have been plenty of women in the game industry in noble roles and having major contributions. And this was something I actually did I do a lot of like talks at libraries and schools, and one of them is talking about kind of how the discussion of gender and looking beyond just the 18 to 30 straight white male demographic has changed over the last like 34 years. And there's still a lot of people who view games as being just a boys' club. That, if it's a game for a boy, it's hardcore violence, blood, sex, destruction. If it's a game for girls, then it obviously must be Barbie or all
I was
pink,
gonna say The Sims.
or The Sims, or Farmville, because that was kind of what that major market was. And I guess for you and for like the games you've been working with and women-led games, with like looking at what women-led studios have been working with or developing, how much has that kind of stigma has changed over the past, I would say maybe over the last like 5 years? Because it's been, again, like the indie decade of 2010 has been a very rapidly changing aspect of the game industry.
Oh yeah, the indie. I love the indies. I'll forever love the indies because they're always so innovative and creative, and they'll just like they'll pull crap out of their hats that like you don't even understand how they were able to pull it off. It's
Mm-hmm.
great, and I love it. And add women to the mix who are already used to dealing with that on a daily basis, and like it just like exponentially it grows. But yeah, no, I think it's funny because I feel like it's not a woman versus man thing. Like yes,
Mm-hmm.
women do bring new perspectives to things. There are other
Mm-hmm.
things that women are going to think about because they've gone through different experiences in life than men have. It's
Mm-hmm.
typically um but in general, like we're all just we're all just big huge gamer nerds. Like we all love the same things. Like we can all look at separate genres than the ones that we're interested in and be like and see the value in the design and the the art and the mechanics and things like that that go into the and so I don't feel like there's like necessarily, and I don't feel like there ever really has been a girl's way of developing
Mm-hmm.
or a man's way of developing. There are different perspectives that are
Yeah.
put into story and things like that. But the way of developing and the variety of games, I feel like hasn't changed much. What has changed recently in the last 5 years or so, and possibly larger, but I haven't been in the industry as long,
Mm-hmm.
is just the access that women have to create their own studios. No, they don't have the funding. That funding has historically not been there, and it's still not here. And that's kind of what we're pushing and fighting for, is to get that funding. But there are more support groups for these women to be able to start up these studios, and so you are seeing more studios led by women or majority women. And because of that, you're seeing like really really great games pop up. And it's funny because like if you took the game itself and you looked at it, and just based on our own biases, most people are going to probably imagine the studio head as a man, which is like, okay, that's fine. But as soon as you go and you take that game, you put a woman behind it, and you try to take that woman and get her in front of publishers or investors or things like that, the amount of support like drops like dramatically. It's just like it's
Mm-hmm.
almost not there. And where to the point where women have thought of, maybe I just need to bring on a male co-founder and he can handle speaking with investors and publishers and things, so they'll take us more seriously. It's which is pretty messed up.
Yeah, and I did an interview last year with someone who runs like an angel like investment firm for a lot of
Mhm.
studios, and they were just on about, oh, publishers, they just want, or investors, they want, the safest possible bet. Like if they see, like
Mhm.
three men with maybe a combined talent of 20 plus years in the industry, they don't have a single indie game on their belt. Yeah, let's fund them because they worked at a major studio. They obviously have,
Yeah.
the it. But yeah, like to your point, something that I've been saying for years, like we've seen some fantastic stuff from coming from the indie space, and especially over the last year in particular. Again,
Oh yeah.
like the number of layoffs, and we're still feeling it right now. Like, I shouldn't have been talking about last year. This year has been
Yeah.
absolutely dreadful. I mean, I'm still
Already
kind of,
over 10,000, I think, already this year.
yeah, I'm still like really bummed about Me Games being shut down. Who did Shadow Tactics?
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. It's insane. I don't see it getting better. I hope it does.
Yeah.
But I have been saying since last year, since the layoff started, this is kind of, and people have said they've seen this before in the last time there were major layoffs. But it's kind of the rise of the indie right now, and you are going to see a lot of those AAA developers coming out. And actually, Carrie Hutch, I'm saying her name wrong, Carrie Hutchins. I'm probably not saying that right. I will type it out. She's from Riot. She got laid off, And she actually ended up going and creating her own studio. She's getting like really, really popular. They're running and looking out for funding right now. She's one of the women. As soon as I saw her get laid off, I was like, hey, if you need any sort of support, let me know. Do you want any like ideas of like how an indie studio is ran? Do you want me to connect you with anybody? And we were just talking for like days about like, okay, how can we get her off and running? And yeah, so she's taken that and she's gone off and she's found a co-founder and she's taken a lot of people from the layoffs and she's making her own studio and it's awesome stories like that. Now, not everybody is going to have that financial security or the privilege to be able to do that, obviously, but it is still exciting to see that there is some good coming out of the layoffs. I try to look at things in the brighter side, so I'm not completely stuck in turmoil. But yeah, that's one thing. And I was gonna say something else, but I totally got lost because I was celebrating her. But yeah, there's a huge variety of games coming, and I think it's going to be amazing seeing the games that are being developed throughout this year and the next, and seeing their announcements in the next 2 years. But as far as AAA, I don't think we'll see anything too great in the next little while. But yeah, there's a lot of games like if you checked out my showcase, I don't know which ones are your favorite, but Dark Web Streamer is one of my favorite. And I'm not a horror game person, but like that one is just like my mind is blown about that one. And one of our games reported back to us after our showcase, and they're like, I can't believe this. Like, we just got more wish lists from this event than we have gotten in a whole year from other events. And I'm like, you're kidding me. And they're like, no, we got like 1,000 wish lists on like the first day. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, okay, we've peaked. We can't do any more showcases. That's it. Which, like, for an indie developer, that's a lot for just one day.
Which horror game did you mention? Because I did play one, but I don't think it was the one that you just said.
I don't think she had a demo up, so I don't think it was hers.
Okay.
Dark Web Streamer by Chantel Ryan.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't see that one. Oh.
You need to check it out. It's pretty cool, and it's neat. It's gonna have Twitch integration, and yeah, I don't know. She there's a deep dive we did with her on the second day that you should totally check out. That she explains the design of the game and like the mechanics and things like that, and it's just like mind blowing, like what she's been able to accomplish, and yeah, it's crazy.
Nice. Yeah, I've been trying to get like more developers for like a horror themed podcast as well, just because horror is another thing that I really do enjoy, but it's very hard to find people who want to talk about it all that much.
Oh yeah, definitely. She would love talking about that. That's like her big thing. She said she's an anthropologist, so things like that really intrigue her.
Nice.
Yeah, I would definitely get her on a call. She is in Australia though, so she can be a little bit hard to book.
I've been doing these interviews for years now, so I've gotten used to the time zone game
Okay,
for sure. And yeah, like I think that's actually a really good point. Something that you were mentioning earlier about kind of like a lot of people still have that stigma that about a male-led studio versus a women-led studio in terms of what kind of games they can make. That if it's a game about romance and love, it obviously has to come from a studio run by a woman. If it's a game about, horror and destruction and evilness, it's gotta be from a male-led studio. But one of the things I think we've especially seen, again, to once again celebrate indie developers, has been just the sheer variety from, any studio, regardless of who runs it, that there really isn't, like, at least at that indie level, like, oh, if it's run by so-and-so, they must obviously make these kinds of games.
Yeah, I feel like that's a big thing in AAA because I think there's just a lot of biases in general just because of how old AAA is and the people who are in charge of it. They've just been here for so long doing the same things that I feel like they're not able to see like what's really actually coming, what's around. But like when you're indie and so many different people with so many different perspectives from so many different backgrounds and genders and all that stuff, they're creating these things from their perspectives, from the different lives they've led. And of course, it's going to look different than somebody who's, had the same type of lifestyle as most of their team for the past 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, and, that's why, DE&I is so important too, because it brings in those other perspectives that haven't been like seen. Like they existed obviously, but they haven't been seen by a wider audience, um, uh, as much as like what's been around. So um, yeah, which just brings me back to the weird sweet baby stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, what's
Yeah.
going on? It's crazy.
Oh yeah, and again, it's that stigma that, and like as someone who's been required, unfortunately, by this job to watch other gaming YouTubers and streamers, I've had to see it from this side. It's always frustrating to see people like latch on to, oh, this game is bad because it has a female main character. That's the only reason why it's bad. Because
That's the only reason.
because I'm seeing like people trying to have these like big brain takes on that Suicide Squad game. And again, as someone who's been covering the industry, who's studied so much on live service and monetization and all that, like I can look at a game and can tell you within like 5 to 10 minutes, like what's good, what's bad about it, very simply. So, and I can tell you from experience that having LGBTQ plus flags, having a female main character, having someone of color as a main character, those aren't the damning reasons why a game would be bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I feel like, people will just take the thing that's more blaringly different than what they're used to and just blame that because they're uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's unfortunately that's a very normal human reaction to things when things that you usually take comfort in are
Mm-hmm.
changed and you don't understand the change. It
Mm-hmm.
takes somebody with a little bit higher emotional intelligence. That sounds bad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean that like in a bad way, like everybody who's
Mm-hmm.
upset about it is like unintelligent emotionally, but it takes a lot of work to get to a point where you need to sit back and look and really take into account other perspectives and things like that aren't your own without getting offended. And I feel like, and it's on both sides, but I feel like, in the gaming space, they've just seen the same perspective so much throughout the history of of games that it's like once
Mm-hmm.
something is just slightly changed and makes them uncomfortable, it's just the whole end of their world. And it just there needs to be more conversations, not just from people like me or people of color or things like that. There needs to be conversations like this at the top with people, men amongst men, like need to be talking with each other about this and being like, look, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We promise it's okay. This isn't like a game breaking thing to have X, Y, and Z in this. What we need to worry about is design or narrative, or like, does this message actually resonate with people? And, is the game playable and fun? Like,
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
Yeah,
Um,
and again, like that kind of stuff, that is universal, whether
right.
the studio's run by a man or by a woman.
Hmm.
If you don't understand that layer, nothing else you're going to really be able to do is going to make that game work. And like that is oftentimes where a lot of games will fail. But as you said, a lot of people view it as, the I'm trying to. There's just so many examples. Trying to think of which one I want to say without getting myself in trouble. The whole, oh, I know, the one that drives me crazy. The "go woke, go broke." That one just every time I
Oh,
hear that phrase, it just feels like nails on a chalkboard in the back of my mind.
most of the time, like I hear so many phrases, and I am used to so much. It's just I can't even like be angry about it anymore. It's just I just have to look at it and laugh and be like, guys, really, come on, it's not. Go touch
Hmm.
some grass.
Yeah. For me, I
um,
can't touch grass. I'm allergic to it, so I have to have the emotional maturity because I don't have that option.
okay, you know what? I will send you one of those puppy pads that is fake
Nice.
grass, and that'll be you can sit on your desk too. You don't even have to go outside.
Perfect.
Oh
And
goodness.
oh, one question I want to ask you specifically about setting up the Women-Led Games Showcase on Steam, because I've had a chance to look at some of like the smaller, like kind of the indie sponsored ones, like a Bullet Heaven Festival last year, Tacticon. I think there was a Strategy Fest. from a kind of organizational standpoint, what kind of entails, or what do you do on your side in order to like pitch it to Steam, or I'm sorry, pitch it to Valve to like get a kind of like an indie sponsored event onto Steam?
Okay, so that has actually changed recently, and I will caveat all of this by saying that one of our sponsors, which is Wings,
Mm-hmm.
as another women's organization, they were actually the ones to communicate with Valve
Okay.
and run the sale. So the sale was actually first initially created by Wings in 2022, was canceled in 2023, which was when I brought up my showcase because I was like, that sucks, we can't have that canceled. And since then we partnered with Wings to bring it back for this year. So my drive was to have the showcase to highlight some of the developers. There's 400 games in that Steam sale, by the way. There's a lot of games led by women in that sale. I only featured like 22 of them because obviously I'm not going to feature 400 games in a showcase. But yeah, got together with Wings. They handled that side of it, but it has changed recently. So in the past, you kind of had to have a connection with somebody in Steam, uh, which I'm glad they've changed it because that can be a little gatekeepy if you don't know the right people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just communicate with them, try to figure it out. Now it's a little more automated in that you submit to have an event and kind of plead your case as to why you have an event because they've been having so many events throughout the year, and it goes through their processes in the back end. Who knows what they're doing behind the magic curtain, and then they come back if they want to do that with you. Whether or not you get the feature again is not entirely up to you. It most likely will have to do with okay, how many games are going on sale, how many games will have the demo, are they popular enough games that they will bring enough traffic to Steam to make it worthwhile to put you up on the front page, things like that. So yeah, that's all I know on that end regarding Valve and Steam. I may or may not attempt to do an event next year on my own, but it depends.
Okay. Yeah, and I know when I was looking at the Bullet Heaven Festival, one of the issues they ran into was trying to, I guess, explain to Valve what games would constitute as a Bullet Heaven, as there
Mm.
were plenty of. I think there's a few first-person shooters. There's a few, just like all kinds of games, and that's always like tricky. And like knowing like which games to showcase is, I'm sure, another very big challenge.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we had about 200 games submit just for the showcase this year. And last year, when we had games submit, I pretty much just okayed everybody that was either from a women-led or majority women studio, or a majority uh, women identifying. And but that was different because I was just putting it up on a website, right? And I was taking whatever keys that they could give me to hand out to influencers. So it's like, okay, that's easier. But when you're trying to fit something into like a 1 hour showcase, like you
Mm-hmm.
can't accept everybody. So what I did was I made sure to kind of go through all the submissions with my producer, and we looked at, okay, do they is their game already released? Are they going to benefit as much as somebody who's about to release a game and needs those wish lists and the push? If their game had been out for like already like a year or two or something, we were like, okay, we can't. We're going to focus on people who are about to release and need
Mm-hmm.
that push from Steam and those wish lists. So, we looked into games that were either releasing this year, we're able to have an updated demo, because, having that demo is another Steam push, and it's another thing that we can give to. Oh, my voice is going out. It's another thing we can give to people like influencers or press or something to play around with so that they can do their own reviews, which is more traffic for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we look at things like big announcements. Like, do they have a console release announcement or a release date announcement, or at least like a release window if they don't want to like give an exact release date. So things like that are kind of what we look at when we go through our games and curate it. Because at the end of the day, we want to do what is going to benefit that developer the most in our showcase, because we've only got the one showcase in a year. So
Mm-hmm.
um, doing the best we can to promote as many devs as we can, and get them the most traffic that they can get is our main priority. So, and that usually does much better in the marketing sense if there's a demo, an updated trailer, at least an announcement, things like that.
Mm-hmm. And just to clarify, because I'm curious about this too, um, for an indie-led showcase, can a developer who was in it like 1 year submit again for like the following year to be in it?
They could. Their chances of being re-accepted for the next year might
Mm-hmm.
be a little slim unless they have like a much bigger announcement. Just because we wouldn't want to share the
Mm-hmm.
same game over and over again and take up a slot of a game that
Yeah.
could benefit more. If it gets to the point where we feel like women would benefit with like more showcases throughout the year, then we will probably explore that option of having like our big showcase in March just to celebrate women in general, and then another smaller showcase later in the year. And I feel like that's good because it hits both halves of the year. So like if they have like a Q1, Q2 release window, that would probably be better for devs in March. If they have like a Q3,
Mm-hmm.
Q4 release window, then if we had another show in like July or August, that would be more beneficial for them. And so we could split it up that way. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. They could be in it again the next year, but it really, really all depends. And I would say their odds drop a little bit more, unless they have like a huge announcement or something that can't be ignored.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And with the event, any other major games that you really enjoyed from it that you wouldn't mind telling the listeners about?
Oh gosh! Oh no! Don't do this to me. You're gonna make me pick favorites, and it's gonna come for me. Um, I am, okay, like I said earlier, a dark web streamer, I am extremely excited about, and I really, really encourage you to go back and check out day 2 of our showcase where we had developer deep dives, and she talks about just the design of the game and the mechanics and things, because I think you'll completely geek out about it. That one, and oh gosh, Sunnyside, I'm excited about. It's like a farming sim meets Persona, which is like a really weird combination if you think about it. It's a farming sim in the Japanese countryside, and like the main goal is not any sort of like end relationship. Like there's no forced marriage or children
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that. Like it's very, very balanced relationship wise, actually. Um, and you're kind of. I don't explain it well. We had a deep dive for that one too. Actually, if you want to watch that too. Um, but yeah, and there's also like the art style is like very much like Persona, and like the
Mm-hmm.
relationship mechanics is a lot like Persona, which like gets me really interested because I'll be honest, even though I work on a farming sim as a community and social media manager, it's not my favorite genre by any means. It's really hard for me to play farming sims. Don't come at me, Crystal. I'm sorry. But this one's just like extremely interesting because of the and there's also battle mechanics. There's battling too, which is also very interesting. I think that's why I like Critter Crops as well, which is the game I'm working on, because you grow these little crops that turn into animals. They're like animal crops. um, and you use them to battle throughout the island, but like they don't die or anything. It's just like it's complicated. It's cute, and there's battle, and there's bosses, and there's like a really intense story, and you just don't expect it because it's this cute little 2D hand drawn animated thing. Um, and then let me see. Hold on, I need to bring up my list now. You're just making me look into this. Those are the top ones that come up in my head. And then Go Go Town looks hilarious. You run around as you have to build up this old like dilapidated town, but like you're just basically like taking people and like robots and things, and you're like forcing them to work, and like it's just really strange. Let me see. But I'm curious to hear like what you said. You had a few games that you liked that you were interested in. I'm curious to hear.
Let's see. I tried out Slender Threads. It was kind of like looks like Twin Peaks point and click like horror adventure game that I
Mm.
enjoyed. Let's see. There was another kind of like farming crop style game. There's like very like bright and vivid colors. I did have Critter Crops on my list, but I missed the deadline for the demo and was taken down before I had a chance to play that one. Unfortunately.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. No. I think the one you're talking about that's like farming and like really bright colors. It might be Grimoire Groves.
yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one was cool. It's like a roguelite, but
Mhm.
farming with like really uh colorful little. I don't know. It's really cool looking. And then there's Crystalla is something I'm really interested in. I don't know if you saw that in the showcase, but it's
Yeah.
like a people were calling it like a Skyrim Elder Scrolls, but you're a cat. So like you're an anthropomorphic cat
Oh, I did something.
running around like battling things and like this big. Um, I think it's going to be an MMO. It's going to be an early access this year. I think.
I think I played that one a while ago. Kind of felt like a Souls-like, at least when I last played it.
Yeah. As it Souls like,
Hmm.
and yeah, coming out in early access Q4 this year. And like you're a cat person, but not like a cat person like Final Fantasy VII cat person. Like you're full on cat
Hmm.
with a sword going around chopping things up. It's pretty cool. Um, and then let me
Uh,
Sunnyside.
one that I did play, Sorry We're Closed. Kind of like, almost like, it looked like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 era, like survival horror, with, kind of reminded me of the game Killer 7 from back in the day.
Oh
Really.
yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, there's one too. I don't know if you played Slay the Princess.
Hmm.
That one is women led by Abby Howard and her partner. Um,
Yes, I played that
yeah,
one last year. It's one of my favorites. We'll have to
yeah.
talk to them about that one. It was a very interesting take on the choose your own adventure.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like just how many times you can loop through it, and like I spent like 2 hours just on like the first I don't know 3 or 4 like loops, and I was like, okay, I need to stop, or I'm gonna sit here until like all the loops are finished. And I don't know how many loops there are.
Hmm.
But that one was really cool. They had another one that came out before that. I think the year before that, or maybe the year before that, even
Hmm.
called Scarlet Hollow, that I heard was really, really great too. That I definitely want to check out. Um, and then Cabernet is a really good one. It's a more like a visual novel, but not really. It's like an adventure visual novel.
Hmm.
And you're a vampire. You wake up one day, you're dead. You wake up
Oh.
dead. Um, but you're a vampire and you're slowly figuring out like, oh wait, I'm not really dead, but also I have to drink blood. Like this sucks,
Hmm.
type of thing.
Yeah, I gotta
Um,
say, like, they have really good thumbnail art or capsule art for Cabernet. Like, that is a
yeah,
really good example.
yeah, they do, they do. I love it. When I first saw it, this is so silly. But I first saw it, I thought of Bunnicula, like the vampire rabbit. I don't know if you ever read that book as a kid, but that's what it reminded me of. Even though, like, it's not about the rabbit. I just saw a rabbit and got excited. Um,
Yeah, like,
what else am I trying to
for me, like, excuse me, like, visual novel style games aren't usually, like, my bag. Kind of like how you're not a huge fan of like the farming sims, but like there were a lot of them on there. Definitely a lot, especially a lot that cover like romance, LGBTQ plus stories. So there's a huge variety of games. I was trying to find were there any Metroidvanias from the event because I did cover Metroidvania Fusion, or I will be covering it probably before I get to the Women-Led Games Showcase. Were there any like notable ones in that category?
There was in the showcase actually directly. It's called Astic, Aestik. That was the second game we showed in our showcase, and a lot of people keep commenting, being like, "Oh, this reminds me of Hollow Knight," or everybody was like, "Oh, we're not going to get Silk Song, but we'll get this first." Like they were really excited about it. So yeah, definitely check out the showcase for that one. I think that demo is still up. Let me look.
Yeah. Oh,
The
I
demo was up for it. Yeah, there is a demo.
Yes, I did try this one out some festival ago. I cover all the festivals, so all
Yeah,
these games just tend to like blur together at some point.
Yeah. This was one of them, and people really really enjoyed this one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let me see. I would have to go back and look at the Women's Day sale. It's over now, so I don't know how to go back and look at it. But there was over 400 games in that sale on Steam, so I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot more than one Metroidvania in there.
Probably. And I guess as a question for you, like kind of like to bring this back to the greater market or what's been happening. What has been like from like your point of view and talking to the developers and studios that you've been working with in terms of I guess like appeal of games these days? Because as everyone who watches knows, like we've gone through these different cycles of deck builders to bullet heavens. We seem to be kind of like in some kind of strange circumstance. We've been getting a lot more Metroidvanias lately. But like for the studios that you've been working with, what has it been like for them in terms of like figuring out what game they want to make next?
Mm. No, I don't really know because honestly, there's a lot of variety in our community and what they like and they want to make. I do see a lot of visual novels, but I think most of the time that is for developers or studios that are just starting out
Mm-hmm.
and aren't familiar yet, and they're like learning how to develop. And so, visual novels I feel like are the easier point of entry. Please don't come at me with pitchforks or anything. I'm sorry. Um, that being said, you see really, really intricate ones like Slay the Princess and things like that, where you're just like, whoa, where they take the genre, and that's what we're seeing a lot in indies in general, but with like women-led with indies too. Like they just take the genre and they flip it into something like you weren't expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody was expecting Slay the Princess to do something like that. I don't think. And so I can't say that there's any specific genre that they kind of focus on. Um, I feel like because women aren't as supported in their endeavors, like financially, as other developers, I feel like they have the freedom to do whatever the
Mm-hmm.
hell they want. Like it's a give and take. It's like they don't have that financial support and things like that, but there's also not that pressure to do something that the market wants specifically. They
Mm-hmm.
can really get innovative and make whatever the hell they want, and then if it goes crazy, then that's really freaking awesome. They'd have better odds of it going crazy if they had that publisher and developer funding support. But um, yeah, no, I can't say there's a specific genre that people kind of um, gravitate towards.
Mm-hmm.
I would say in general, in indie in general, the past like 2 or 3 years has been like farming sims everywhere. So maybe that's just my algorithm because I work on a farming sim, and so I'm just seeing them everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And like another genre that I've seen a lot of popularity with, especially in the last few years, has been like puzzle games. Baba's You. I know there's one. Oh, I forget the name. I think it's Lab Rat. And the developer of that one, I interviewed. And I can't remember her name. I think it was Gwen something.
I actually haven't heard of that one. And now you're telling me about people I need to reach out to.
Let's
Lab
see.
rats.
Was it Lab Rat? Oh yes, it was. I got it right. It's always surprising when I can actually get the game right on the first try without looking it up.
Is it already out or is it in development?
It is in development. It should be
Okay.
coming soon. It's a Sokoban style. Here is a
Oh,
Gwen
sweet.
Fay. Gwen Frey is her name.
Sweet. Oh no, I remember this. I remember this from I think it was last year or the year before. AT&T did a women's um sort of grant
Hmm.
competition thing where they could show off, and this was in one of them. And yeah, it's really 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 cool.
Hmm.
Now
Yeah.
I'm like absorbed in watching it. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I could
Yeah, it
just.
reminds me of like Portal and meets almost meets Baba as You, and like they had a baby.
Hmm. I could just sit here and talk about indie games all day long. Like that. This is like my bag for sure. Trying to think if there's any other major questions. So I guess one thing, for any women watching this, are there any resources, sites, anything like they can like look at? They're looking for help that you can recommend, and feel free to send over in like notes, and I'll put that in the description down below when this cast goes up.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely check out, if you haven't already, some in-industry organizations that I have heard are really good that can help you with some stuff if you're just getting started. You know, things like Wiggy, there's Wings, Code Coven has been great, and we'll also give grants for prototyping some things if you need that. And they'll have different um, cohorts and things like that where you spend about 2 months working on something, and it's either narrowing down your pitch or finishing that prototype and things like that. And they'll usually there's like funding associated with that, so that's really helpful. um, Women-Led Games, come check us out. We don't have funding support at the moment, maybe someday, but we will shout to the rooftops about your game and try to get you as seen as much as possible. And when you're ready, we will stick you in our showcase, and be very, very, very happy about it, because that's that's what we
Mhm.
do. And then I'm trying to think if there's other groups that you are interested in, like just head into our Discord, and we can find them together, because I'm all for making more groups that will
Mhm.
that will help out women developers. I think our biggest struggle right now is finding funding, and I feel like that's across the board for
Yep.
everybody, obviously. But um, even the women's groups in games, the past like 8 years, even not even just the past two, have had a hard time finding funding. So I feel like if we can all gather together and make enough noise, maybe that funding will increase a little bit. So
Mhm.
definitely come in and join us and see what we can organize together.
Okay. And I think for my last questions for you for tonight, I just want to ask a little bit more about like being like, you say you do like community engagement, community like monitoring, stuff like that, because that's a topic that I've wanted to ask like people about for a long time now, especially again with everything that's going on. What has been like, or I guess, do you have any advice for people who are trying to do this on their own, in term, or doing it for their own games, in terms of like, I guess like avoiding pulling your hair out at the end of the day? All right, so I think with that, we'll wrap things up for tonight. It's getting a little bit late for everyone. I have work to do. I have lots of showcase videos and things to write. So I guess for you, Charmaine, what is next for women-led games? Like any events, anything coming up in the following months?
What is next? That is an interesting question. Yeah, so just to kind of give a little bit of a teaser. So Women-Led Games and Latin American Games Showcase actually work very closely together. Um, the producer from Latin American Games Showcase is actually the producer for Women-Led Games, and vice versa. I help with things in Latin American Games. So we've basically partnered for the long run to do something. Not going to confirm what that is yet, as we're still working on it. But just to kind of give everybody a teaser, there is a partnership between us going on, and we are headed to GDC to talk to quite a number of people to see how we can, further amplify our events and help support developers as they're, marketing their games and trying to get in, into the market, I guess, in general. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to give too many details. We're still working things out, but there are some services we would like to provide that, we will be able to announce at a later date if it's possible.
All right, sounds good. And yes, I have interviewed a few people from the Brazilian Games Festival in the past. I know they're really trying to raise awareness for the country. It's been nice seeing the games coming out of them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That is actually one of the places that we really focus on with lags. That we've been hearing that a lot, where there needs to be a little bit more noise in that area, because it's been really, really hard for those developers. So that's
Yep.
definitely a light we're shining in that area for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I guess with that as kind of like final question. So, first off, any social media you would like to promote, sites, Twitter, X, Blue Sky, whatever, feel free.
Yeah, we have Twitter that I refuse to call X, at Women-Led Games. Twitch is at Women-Led Games. YouTube at Women-Led Games. TikTok, I have no videos on there, but it's still at Women-Led Games. And we are on LinkedIn, but it's mostly just me, so you don't really have to look up Women-Led Games specifically. And then our website is just womenledgames.com. Very simple, all across the board. And yeah, that's where you can find us. And then our Discord is also linked up on those as well.
All right. So, I think with that, my final question for you is, you have anything you want to say about the organization, about Women-Led Studios? Any final points to take us out for tonight?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Just keep on trucking. We got this. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it.
All right. Well, I think with that, we'll end things for tonight. So, again, Charmaine, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. And, yeah, if you or anyone else from the organization are free in the future to discuss things, definitely reach out. I'll be more than happy to have you back on.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So, with that said, we're going to wrap things up for tonight. So, again, if you are in the game industry, if you're working on a game, just want to talk game dev, whatever, be sure to get in touch. I'm always looking for guests for these shows. If you like to support the channel and what I do, again, do the YouTubing stuff, check out the Discord and our Patreon. Monthly support will go towards getting more daily streaming happening. So if you enjoy what you see, be sure to check those out. Other than that, everyone, we'll be back real soon with another interview on our Perceptive Podcast Showcase. And come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where you some of the art and science of games.